Hi everyone, hope you all are doing well and welcome to our next lesson. And in this lesson what we will do is, I was thinking sometimes you want to have, I think most of the time if you have a blog, you want to actually have people subscribe to your newsletter. So what I've decided to do is I'm just going to create a subscriber model and a migration for that as well. Okay, so basically that's the first thing that we're going to do. The next thing is we're going to create the migration schema. So basically in our database, under the migrations, this part right here, we're going to start filling in those details that we want in the database, like the name, the ID, or the body, and things like that. We're going to do that in this lesson. All right, and then I thought is to add subcategories as well. But instead of just the category, sometimes you want your users or the person that you design the website for, they might want a category, but under that category, they might need subcategories as well. So I'm basically going to add the subcategories as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to complete the fillable for the mesh assignments. So under the models, the user, we're just going to complete this part. So basically, just to fill in all the things that we need, just to complete this as well. Okay. Then we're going to add some extra useful methods in our models. So basically under post model, we're going to add that public function, the excerpt, and things like that. Okay. So we're going to add that as well in this lesson. Right. So these are the things that we'll be doing. Let me just save this in this lesson. So yes, let's get started. So basically we're going to create a subscriber model for our newsletter. Okay, so let's do that. Right, so just close this off because we don't need that now. Let me just keep it there. Right, so the first things, let's command tilde so we can bring our command line terminal up. All right, so we have our terminal. So what we're going to do is we're going to create that model, PHP artisan make model. We're just going to create the subscriber model and with its migration. So that's why the M tag is there for the migrations. We can just press enter. All right, so we created the model and it's in the migration successfully. All right, so that part is now complete. Okay, so let's go to app models, the subscriber model. Okay, the only thing that we're going to do here is just, there's not going to be a table. We're going to add a table. What I wanted to say is we're not going to have a relationship in it. So basically the only thing we're going to do is protected table. So for this one, we're going to just be the subscribers table. Okay, so let's just do this. Okay, subscribers table, so we know that is working. And the other one is going to be protected fillable. Okay, and the protected fillable is going to be an array, and inside the array, we basically only need the name of the person, the email address, and we're going to generate a token for them. Okay. Because the reason for the token is if someone subscribes to the channel, to the newsletter, and later on the token will be used if they want to unsubscribe from our newsletter. Because the thing is, if someone knows the email address of the person, they can actually unsubscribe them. We don't want that to happen. So we just want to assign a unique token for them. The reason why I want to do this part right here for the token as well is because I want to let us integrate the MailChimp API as well. So that if someone subscribes to the newsletter, they actually automatically subscribe to in the MailChimp, in the database of MailChimp as well. So basically, if you want to create your newsletters in MailChimp, you actually, all the subscribers on your database will basically be inside the MailChimp. So you don't have to copy and paste your clients' details, subscribers in MailChimp as well. It does it at the same time. But we're going to get to that part as well. So don't stress too much about that. But not for now, let's just go to fillables. All right. So the another thing that I want to do is, okay, so we've done this part right here. So let's go into our schema. So we added this part, okay. Now we're going to add the migration schema. So let's go into our database file, okay. Migrations. You guys might just let me know in the comment section if you think I need to make the size a little bit bigger or if it's clear enough for you guys to see, right? Under the migrations, let's go and start with our post one. Okay, so let me make this. You can see we create the create post migration. So we click on that one. So let me just make that a little bit smaller so we have more room to work. Okay, now the first thing that we're going to need is we're going to, in our table, we added the ID because that's a unique ID that will be assigned. Now the thing is that we're going to add is we want a title. Okay, for every post that we have, we want a title. Okay, another one is we want a slug. Okay, so another string. This will be a slug. Slug, like I explained before, is just a SEO friendly URL. But you're going to see how that looks like when we get to that part. Okay. Now the thing is, I just want to show you because there's one. Let's create a body. Okay. We can use let me just do it like this. We can use the text property right here instead of a string. But what we can do is we can actually use a medium text. All right, like here. It just allows more characters in that field in your database. But I prefer to use for my articles or for my body of my post, I like to use the long text. Okay, so you can use text, medium text, or long text. But we're not going to really do much typing in this. Basically, we're not going to create a huge big body of text for our post. We're just going to create a small text, but I just want to, from the let go, I just want to let us create a long text, so a big field amount of characters that we can add in that field of the body section. Okay, so just create a long text because we can actually use the medium text or normal text. Okay, just remember that because sometimes if you have a big field, and so you create a post, you will actually get an error because it says the field is too small or something like that. Okay, that's why I use the long text for that one. Right, the next one that we're going to do is, I was thinking about this one because some posts don't have images, but other posts do have images. I think I need to, in this post, we're going to create the string for our cover image. Okay, so I was contemplating if I need to add the images, but I think let's just rather add it. So for you guys, so that you can also know how to work and resize your images and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's do that as well. Okay, the next thing that you might need is a table. And for this one, we're going to just use the normal text. And for this one, we're just going to do the meta description. Okay, so we're going to use the meta description and we're going to let this field be nullable. So I mean, if someone doesn't fill in the meta description, it is fine. And this field is nullable. But you see this field right here, it is required because you will get an error if you don't fill in this field and this field and this field and this one as well, because if we don't add the nullable clause. Okay, right, so we put that in there so that that field can be nullable. Right, so the meta description, and the next field that we're going to need in our blog post. Let's say you a user don't want the post to appear all in the same day. Let's say you have, let's say on a Saturday, you can create the post. But the thing is, if he creates the post on Saturday, all that post will be displayed on that day because it will basically pull in the post on the day it was created. But there's another way we can bypass this by actually let the user be able to schedule this post. Like say he wants the post to be on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to Friday. So that you can actually have a published at field, okay? So let's add that. Now basically what we do here is we add the timestamp, okay? So the timestamp field, and we're going to do the published at. Right, so this field can be nullable. Right, so let's just do that as well. Okay, so basically what will now happen is if the user create a post, they can actually select where the date where they want to let this post be shown on his blog. Okay, so he can Saturday or whatever day he's got free, he can create a week's post, and he can just publish those dates for that post on those individual dates. Right, and the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add foreign keys in our database for the foreign key for the author and the foreign key for the category ID. So we need those kind of foreign keys as well in our database. Okay, but I just want to add one more field. Let's say let's add a string. No, this is going to be a Boolean. Okay, so this is going to be a Boolean field, and this is featured. Now let's say you're on your blog post, you've got like 3 main columns on your main page. Now the thing is, what the user can do is, let's say they want a specific post to be featured on the main page, and this is basically the functionality that will do that. So if they click on the post and they click featured, then that post will basically be on the front page and things like that. So this is the one. So we use a Boolean for that because it's going to be either a true or false. So if it's false, it's not featured. If it's true, it will be featured. In order, let me just do it like default. Now default will be not featured, 0 meaning false and 1 meaning true. Okay, so that's the Boolean for 0 false, 1 true. Okay, all right, now let's add our foreign keys. Now the table that we're going to add here is a foreign ID. Okay, now the foreign ID here will be basically author. Let me just do like this, author ID. Okay. So basically that will be an author ID. Now then we're going to add a constraint to that, and a constraint will be on the users table. Okay, so basically inside this part right here, this author ID, if we go, let me just show you, because when we created our models before in the previous lesson, if we go to app models under the user, we created this relationship for the post. Right, now in here we can add the author like this ID. Right, otherwise you don't want to add the author ID. This is just useful so that you know what it is for. So if you don't add the author, I want to add the author ID, and you leave it blank right there, you can inside here, you can, instead of author ID, you can actually just add user ID. Right, so basically if you can see it like this, if we do it like this, okay, the Laravel will automatically assume that it will be the user ID. Okay, so just put it like that. So I was doing it in the wrong model. I needed to do this in the post model. In the post model, we need to add here the author ID or the user ID. Okay, but for us, we're going to stick to the author ID. All right, that's it. So let's just save that. Okay, so basically we got the author ID because we want when we call the post model, we want to actually know that it is on the user ID. All right, let's move on. All right, so we're going to add the table. And we're going to add the foreign ID. And this time again, it's going to be the category ID where this post belongs to. Okay, now this is going to be constrained also on the categories table. the categories table, and on delete, and delete, we want to cascade. Let me make this a little bit, give us some room there. So basically we added the cover image. Now our post is going to have a cover image, it's going to have a title, it's going to have a slug, it's going to have a body tags, it's going to have meta description, and a published ad, and it's going to have a featured column. And the 2 foreign IDs that will be in that table will be a user ID and a category ID. Right? Right, and the last field that we have is here, basically the timestamps. Now the timestamp is basically giving you 2 tables, 2 columns in your table. The one is going to be created at, and the other one will be updated at. All right, so this is basically our schema for our posts. Right, we save that. We can obviously add things later to the table, and we can just migrate the table fresh. Just remember that when you in a local environment, chop and change and do the things as you need it, and later on when you go to production it will be kind of very difficult. So rather do all your things during production, during your local development. All right, so let's move on to our next table that we're going to be working with. Let me just close off this. All right, let's close this table. All right, the table that we're going to be working with, the users table, it's fine as is. We don't need to add anything there. So let's say you want to add a bio. You can just do it like this. You add obviously your bio table right there, but we're not going to touch this table. Okay, so we're going to leave it as is. Right, the next thing that we're going to need is go down. We've got our post, we've got our categories table. Okay, so let's go to our categories. Right, inside our categories table, what we're going to need, table, we're going to need a string. Okay, and it's going to be a name, and we want this name to be unique. Right, so we don't want duplicate names in our categories table. That's why we assign the unique category. So if the user create another name that have the same name, it will actually just give an error to the user saying that name already exists, and that's why we add the unique attribute right there. Okay, so let's create another one, a table. Now this one is going to be a string, and we're just going to create a slug as well. Okay, and then we're going to obviously add a table again, but on this one we're going to add the foreign ID again, right? But for this foreign ID, it will be a parent ID. Now the parent ID is basically to be able to add subcategories on the category. Instead of creating another table in our database of subcategories, we actually just use the parent ID to assign subcategories to the main category. But I will show you guys how that works a little bit later, okay? And then we're going to let this be nullable, because the main categories will have a parent ID of null, but the subcategories will have a category ID that's corresponding to their parent ID. All right, but let's get to that. All right, and this will going to be a constraint, and this will be on the categories table. Okay, so let's close this off. Let me give me some room. All right, so just remember, don't put the nullable at the back of the constraint. Let me show you, like, let's copy this. No, like that. Let's copy this, and let's say we add the nullable here. All right, this part will be ignored. Okay, so if you add it here, it's not going to see it. Okay, so don't put it there, put it here, otherwise you're going to get the nullable field won't work. Okay, so just add the nullable before the constraint. Okay, and then obviously the timestamps where of the created ad and updated ad fields. Okay, all right, so you can show the creation and updates timestamps of the table. All right, cool, it shows it even there in my notifications or tooltip. All right, let's move on. We got our categories table all set up. Let's move on to the next one. The other field that we have is called the tags table. Okay, so let's go into our tags. Give us some room. Right, now this is basically our tags table. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add another table of a string. Okay, and the inside here is basically going to have the same thing, a name. The name needs to be unique as well, because you don't want to create multiple tags with the same name. Okay, so that is just to kind of reinforce that. So, and another thing is we want to another string of, actually we want a slug as well for our tags. Okay, and then we obviously have our timestamps right there. So I updated it and created that field. Okay, all cool. Right, so we're done with the tags one. It's quite easy. Okay, let's bring up the menu again. So the next field that we have is we go ahead, created the post, the categories, the tags. Now we go to the post tag table. Okay, let's do that. Now inside here, we're just going to have two fields. Now both of them is going to be a foreign ID. Okay, so basically this is our pivot table. All right, the one is going to be basically like a post ID, and the other one is going to be a tag ID. All right, so post.id. And this is going to be nullable. No, this field we're not going to make nullable. We're just going to add the constraint here. Okay, and then we want to be on delete. We just want to cascade. Okay, let's copy this down, and all we do is we just change it to a tag ID. Right, so this will reference, let me just make this a little bit bigger. So this part right here will reference our post, our little post schema right here. And this tag ID will reference our tag right there. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so we're all done there. We've done the post one. Right, the last one is our subscribers. Okay, so what we're going to do is in our subscribers, we just need three fields. All of them are going to be strings. So string. Right, and this one is going to be the name, okay, that we want to save. The other one is going to be the last name. No. String. It's going to be the email. Okay, and another one is going to be a string again. And this one is just going to be the token. Just a token. Right, so we got our tables right here. Now, I haven't migrated my database yet, but we're going to get an error. Okay, so we created our migrations in schema. Now the thing is allow for subcategories. We've done that. All right, complete the mess assignment fillables. Okay, but we're still there and here. Okay, so let's do this. Now the thing is, I want to show you. You see our posts are referencing a category ID right there. Now, the problem is the categories table have not been created to reference it. So it'll give us an error. Right, but don't be afraid of errors in your code. So especially if you do things. For me, it was very scary actually when you get an error, you don't know how to fix it and stuff like that. But sometimes it's quite a helpful learning experience to actually get errors and just work through them and understand why you get them. Okay, so as you can see, I deliberately done this so that we can see that this category table is needed in our post column, but our category table have not been created. So let's quickly migrate and see what that error looks like. Okay. Okay, so what we do is we open that and we're going to just say PHP artisan migrate. Now let's see what kind of errors we get. Okay, you press enter. Right, we get our first error. No connection could be made because the target machine actively refused to use it, refuse it basically. Now you might be wondering, if you get this error, it means your server is not running. So don't be afraid, okay? So I've let this also be, so that if you get this error, don't be afraid. All it means is your server is not running. So let's quickly do that. All right, so all we do is we're just going to start our server up. All right, so basically we let it run. You can see the ports are open for the Apache server, and our SQL server is going to be at 3306, as you can see right there. All right, so we're up and running. So let's try it again. And so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to press clear. So basically remove everything, and I'm just going to say PHP artisan migrate. Okay, then we press enter, and hopefully no more errors. Now, like I said, all right, it says object of class could not be converted to a string. Let's see what is happening. Right, I made a little boo-boo in our, if you can see, it just shows you like in the post migration right here. You can see it right there, the migration. You will see which one failed. So if we go to our post right here, let's see. You see, I created a double table. Now that is not how it's supposed to be. Just be table timestamps. That's all. Okay, so let's try that again. So as you can see, it kind of shows you more or less what it is. This one is just as clear as mud, but if you can look at the migration, because I saw it right here, that it created two tables, but you only need one to do it. Okay, so no worries there. So let's do a PHP artisan migrate. I'm looking actually for the category error, but let's try again. Okay, so it's migrating. All right, this is the error I was looking for. Okay, this is the one I was looking for. All right, because you're going to get this error a lot if you don't understand how to prevent it. Okay, so basically it shows you a database query exception. So don't be alarmed. Can create table block.post foreign key constraint incorrectly formed. Okay, so basically it's looking for the categories. You see, it's looking for that table, but it cannot find it. Okay, in order to fix that, if you did create your tables like this, let's quickly fix it for ourselves. Okay, let's go. Let's make this a little bit bigger. So you see the timestamps right here. Okay, now all I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this table to be above the post. So basically you can rename this. So I deliberately left it for you guys. So 121,000. Okay, and as you can see, it moves it up, and I'm going to rename this one 0001. Okay, so basically the post is going to look for the category, so it's going to find it, so it's going to link to it, and then it's going to have the tags, and it's going to have the post tag, because the post tag is going to require the post table to be in front of it, and the tags table to be also in front of it. So that's all good. This one doesn't have any foreign key constraints. So all very good stuff. Okay, so let's try it again, and hopefully this time it works. Right, so don't be afraid of errors when you see them. It's all part of the learning process. You're going to, most of your things, you're going to debug a lot of code. So it's quite handy just to learn these little things and why they happen. All right, so let's quickly do PHP artisan migrate. Okay. Okay, it should migrate everything now. If it didn't migrate and it says the post table have already been created, if it does that for you, just do this command, PHP artisan migrate, and then just add the fresh right there. Okay, so basically the fresh command will, but let me show you. If you press enter, okay, I'm just going to run mine again. It will actually drop the tables, drop all tables successfully, and it will rerun the whole migration. Okay, so if you did get that error, just say, if it says the post has already been created, then just do the PHP artisan migrate fresh, then it will actually create the tables for you. Okay, all good, all good. Okay, so basically we've run our migrations. Now we're just going to complete the fillable for the mess assignment. Okay, so let's quickly do that. So we're going to go into our models. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to start with a post. Okay, we can add them all in a single line like this, or we can add them like this. Okay, can add them underneath each other. Okay, so we had our ID, but we don't need to actually add the ID. We can just add the cover image. Okay, we add the title, we add the body. Now, if you want to know all the fields that you have, let's just show you. Just do the database migrations. Let's go to the posts. Now, as you can see, we have the cover image, the title, the slug. So you need to add those kind of things right here. Okay, so those are the fields is basically we're referencing here. These fields right here is what we reference here. Okay, so let's say we got the slug, we got the body, we got now the next field is the meta description. All right, so let's add that in there. Okay, the meta description, when we got the published ad and featured. Okay, so published ad. Okay, so we want this all to be mess assigned. Okay, featured. Okay, the next one is basically the user ID and the category ID. Okay, the user ID and then the category ID. But for me, I'll change this actually to the author ID. Author ID. It will give us an error now because I want this to be the author ID. So I'm just going to rerun my migrations. Sorry about that. You can leave it as a user ID. It will not be a problem. But if you leave it as a user ID, okay, in your model, right here, where we're referencing the author ID, just remove this part right here. Okay, so just remove it. Right, so we got our post, we got our author, we're all done. We got all this in there, so good stuff. So we close it. So let's move on to the next model. We have the subscriber, we have the name, email, and token, so all is good here. The next one that we have is we got the category. Right, so we had the two, the name and the slug. Let's see, let's make sure that everything is working correctly, otherwise we're going to get error. And we obviously have the parent ID as well. So let's add that as well in here. Right. Remember, like I said, I want to add the foreign country constraint for the subcategories. So we're just going to add a public function, and I'm just going to call this subcategories. All right, and we can just going to say has many as well. All right, so a category can have many subcategories. Okay, so we're just going to say return this as many. Right, it has many categories, class, but the foreign key constraint will be the parent ID. Okay, so let's just do it like this. Okay, and we can actually add with categories inside here. So when we call the subcategories, it will actually bring all the categories as well. So we can do it with categories. Right, so all good. So we've done that. So we got done our post, we got our subscriber, we got our tag. So we got the name and slug in there. The user, we also have the mass fillable. So no need to change anything there. So let's see what else we need to do. So we've done that. Now the thing is, we can add the extra useful methods in our models. As I can see, we're over 30 minutes already. So for that, we're going to just leave it right here for today. Otherwise, the video will be very long because I need to explain these useful methods. Just to show an example what I meant. Now, in our app, let's use our post. Okay, so what we can do is we can assign, we can do it basically like this: public function, right, ID, okay, and we want it to be a type hint of integer. Okay, do it like this. This is all PHP 8 stuff that is added, so no need to worry about that. And all we do is we're just going to say return this .id. Okay, so all that does. Now the thing is, now you might wonder, but why would I want to do that? Because I'm going to do that with the title as well. Let me just bring it down here. Just do it like this. I'm going to do the title, and I'm going to do this like a string, because it's going to be a string, and we're just going to say return title. Now, why do we want to do this? It's not necessary, but it's quite helpful. Let's say when you, let's say you call in our, let's go to view quickly, resources, views, inside our welcome view. Let's say we're in this view. All right, and let's say we're calling the title and in our post. Wow, this is a lot of stuff. Let's go to something simpler. All right, so I'm going to a policy. Now, in our blade view, if we call that post, we can just, with the title, we can just do it like this. All right, so basically what we're doing here is we're calling on the method title. Okay, so the method inside our post. So basically I'm referencing this right here when I call it like this. So I'm calling the method, and the method will actually just return this title. So basically we'll return the post title for us. Okay, so that's the reason why I'm doing it like this. The other way that you can do it as well, not the other way, but you can do that for every one of your things like this. You can do, I actually want to do all of them underneath that, but that will be a different lesson for another day. Okay, so if we do it all of them, the video will get too long. Right, so let's leave it at that for now. Don't save it. Right, and yes, I wanted to show you this as well. In your post, if you return the post that belongs to the user with the auth ID with default, the admin user, this can be basically a name. So the reason why I'm just calling it admin user, I don't want to confuse you guys, it's actually just for a name like John Doe. That's basically what the with default means. Okay, so just like that. That's all. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for being here. And if you like the video, please give it a like. If you don't like it, please give it a thumbs down, positive or negative comments in the comment section. Really appreciate it. And yes, and on the next lesson, we will just continue with our project. So sorry about that I added some things to our models like the subscriber, and with the MailChimp, we will add that because I know some guys, when you create a blog, this will be quite handy and useful things to know as well. So yeah, we can do that as well as we create this series. Right, and the publish ad we also added. And we're going to add some search functionality also in the blog. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys, and goodbye. Bye-bye.